The Genovese family, a legacy of crime. Early beginnings. The Genovese crime family, one of the 5 families that dominate organized crime in New York City, has a history steeped in violence, corruption, and illicit activities. Its origins can be traced back to the early 20th century, during a period when Italian-American organized crime began to gain a foothold in the United States. The family was originally founded by Giuseppe "Joe the Boss" Masseria in the 1920s. Masseria's reign, however, was marked by constant feuding with rival gangs and culminated in his assassination in 1931 during the Castellammarese War, a power struggle among New York's Italian-American gangs. Rise of Charles "Lucky" Luciano. The end of the Castellammarese War saw the rise of Charles "Lucky" Luciano, a pivotal figure in the history of organized crime in America. Luciano reorganized the structure of the American Mafia, establishing the Commission, a governing body to mediate disputes and oversee mafia activities across the country. Under Luciano's leadership, the family thrived, engaging in bootlegging during Prohibition, gambling, and other illegal enterprises. Luciano's arrest and imprisonment in 1936 for compulsory prostitution marked a significant shift as leadership passed to Frank Costello. Frank Costello and the expansion Frank Costello, known as the Prime Minister of the Underworld, focused on expanding the family's operations into legitimate businesses and political corruption. Under Costello, the family became deeply involved in loan sharking, a practice where money was lent at exorbitant interest rates under the threat of violence. This illegal lending practice provided a steady and substantial source of income for the family. Costello's influence extended into the highest echelons of political power, securing the protection and cooperation of numerous politicians and law enforcement officials. However, his reign was not without challenges. Vito Genovese, an ambitious and ruthless underboss, sought to take control. In 1957, an assassination attempt forced Costello into retirement, and Vito Genovese assumed leadership, ushering in a new era for the family. Vito Genovese, consolidation and expansion. Vito Genovese was a formidable leader whose tenure was marked by a significant expansion of the family's criminal enterprises. Under his leadership, the Genovese family became deeply involved in drug trafficking. The importation and distribution of narcotics became a major revenue stream, contributing to the family's wealth and power. Genovese's aggressive expansion into the narcotics trade brought increased scrutiny from law enforcement, leading to his eventual conviction and imprisonment in 1959 for drug trafficking. Despite his incarceration, Genovese continued to exert influence over the family from prison. His ability to control operations from behind bars underscored the deeply ingrained structure and loyalty within the organization. The Genovese family's involvement in drug trafficking continued, with operations spanning from the streets of New York to international networks. The Chin Gigante era following Genovese's imprisonment, leadership passed to a series of acting bosses, culminating in the rise of Vincent the Chin Gigante. Gigante, who was initially a boxer before turning to a life of crime, became notorious for his eccentric behavior. He often feigned mental illness to avoid prosecution, wandering the streets in a bathrobe and muttering to himself. This act earned him the nickname the Odd Father. Gigante's reign was characterized by a strategic low profile and a focus on maintaining the family's core operations in loan sharking, extortion, and gambling. The family also continued its involvement in drug trafficking, albeit with more caution to avoid the intense law enforcement scrutiny that had plagued Genovese. Loan sharking and extortion. Loan sharking remained a cornerstone of the Genovese family's operations throughout its history. The practice of lending money at usurious rates and using threats of violence to enforce repayment allowed the family to exert control over various businesses and individuals. Victims who were unable to repay their loans often found themselves trapped in a cycle of debt and fear, further entrenching the family's influence. Extortion was another significant aspect of the Genovese family's operations. Business owners were often forced to pay protection money to the family in exchange for the promise of safety from vandalism or violence. This protection racket extended to various industries, including construction, the garment district, and the waterfront. The family's control over unions also played a crucial role in their extortion schemes, allowing them to manipulate labor disputes and secure lucrative contracts. Drug trafficking. The Genovese family's involvement in drug trafficking began in earnest during Vito Genovese's leadership and continued through subsequent administrations. The family established networks to import and distribute heroin, cocaine, and other narcotics. Their operations spanned from the streets of New York City to international connections in Europe and South America. Drug trafficking proved to be highly profitable, but also brought significant risks. Law enforcement agencies, recognizing the devastating impact of narcotics on communities, prioritized efforts to dismantle these operations. Despite numerous arrests and convictions, the Genovese family managed to maintain a foothold in the drug trade, adapting to changing circumstances and law enforcement tactics. Blackmail and political corruption. Blackmail and political corruption were tools frequently employed by the Genovese family to secure their power and protect their interests. The family's ability to gather compromising information on politicians, law enforcement officials, and business leaders allowed them to exert significant influence over these individuals. By leveraging this information, the family could manipulate decisions and secure favorable outcomes for their operations. Political corruption was particularly pervasive during Frank Costello's tenure. Costello's connections extended to some of the highest offices in the city, ensuring that the family's activities were often overlooked or tacitly supported. The family's influence over unions further augmented their power, as they could mobilize labor strikes or other disruptions to coerce cooperation from business owners and politicians. Murder and violence. Violence and murder have always been integral to the Genovese family's operations. The use of violence to enforce compliance and eliminate rivals was a hallmark of the family's strategy. Throughout its history, the family has been linked to numerous high-profile assassinations and acts of violence, both within the criminal underworld and against those who opposed them. The family's willingness to resort to murder ensured that they remained a formidable force within organized crime. Internal power struggles often resulted in bloody confrontations as ambitious members vied for control. Externally, the family used violence to maintain dominance over their territories and protect their interests from encroaching rivals or law enforcement informants. Law enforcement and legal battles. The Genovese family's extensive criminal activities inevitably attracted the attention of law enforcement agencies. Over the years, the family has been the target of numerous investigations, prosecutions, and legal battles. High-profile trials and convictions of key members, such as Vito Genovese, Vincent Gigante, and other prominent figures, have significantly impacted the family's operations. Despite these setbacks, the family has demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt and continue its operations. The deeply entrenched structure and loyalty within the organization, combined with their ability to corrupt and influence key figures, have allowed them to persist in the face of ongoing law enforcement efforts. Modern-day and continuing influence. In the modern era, the Genovese family remains a powerful force within organized crime, although its operations have evolved to adapt to changing circumstances. While traditional activities such as loan sharking, extortion, and gambling continue, the family has also diversified into new areas. White-collar crimes, including stock fraud, money laundering, and cybercrime, have become increasingly significant components of their operations. The family's ability to adapt to new opportunities and challenges has ensured their continued relevance in the world of organized crime. Law enforcement agencies continue to target the Genovese family, but their deep-rooted connections and sophisticated operations make them a challenging adversary. Conclusion. The Genovese crime family's history is a testament to the enduring power and adaptability of organized crime. From its early beginnings under Joe Masseria to the influential reigns of Charles Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, Vito Genovese, and Vincent the Chin Gigante, the family has navigated numerous challenges and maintained its position as a dominant force in the criminal underworld. Their involvement in loan sharking, drug trafficking, blackmail, and murder has left an indelible mark on the landscape of organized crime in the United States. Despite ongoing efforts by law enforcement to dismantle their operations, the Genovese family's legacy of crime continues to thrive, a testament to their resilience and adaptability.